Peter Kovach is a retired senior Foreign Service officer. He retired at the rank of Minister Counselor. Mr. Kovach served in Yemen, Bahrain, Morocco, Jordan, Japan, and Pakistan. 3 times he headed up whole-of-government strategic communication organizations. He was a diplomat in resident at UCLA and director of the Office of International Religious Freedom at the Department of State. Mr. Kovach is currently senior advisor at George Mason University's Center for World Religion, Diplomacy, and Conflict Resolution. He serves on the Rumi Forum's advisory board. Please welcome to the stage Peter Kovach for opening remarks.
Thank you for that too flattering introduction. Peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum, shalom aleichem, shanti, shanti. No matter in what language, culture, faith, or intellectual tradition your personal roots are planted, essential in this modern world is an ability to bring a wider community table to your narratives, your structuring of reality. In our diverse and increasingly proximate human world, such sharing is imperative. All the while sharing, realizing that other equally whole, equally human beings erect different parameters of reality in their own distinct cultural, psychological, and linguistic ways. This kind of sharing is essential to survival on today's planet. It's what really makes us fully human, dialogue. And the Rumi Forum, uniquely in my view, excels at fostering such dialogue. I discovered the Gülen movement that the Rumi Forum represents during my time as diplomat in residence at UCLA. A rabbi friend and a noted Muslim American acquaintance, essayist Reza Aslan, both alerted me to programs at the Pacifica Institute. Pacifica is the West Coast counterpart of the Rumi Forum. My friends knew me well enough to know these programs would capture my interest, and they did. Let's see. These pages are in close dialogue. To my surprise, the modest Pacifica Institute office suite and program venue was a 3-minute walk from my Westwood apartment. I started attending their luncheon programs regularly and eventually gave a couple of talks myself. An interfaith activist and, as a diplomat, a peace builder, I found no other faith-based organization in the LA basin better foster dialogue across significant social and conceptual boundaries. Whether reconciling Turkish with Armenian accounts of the tragic events in Anatolia of 100 years ago, or building bridges between Muslims and Jews, and connecting those bridges to the rich dialogues in Los Angeles between Catholics and Buddhists. An odd happenstance, maybe, but true. I feel the same about the Rumi Forum and their work in our capital region. The key commonality of the luncheon seminars, home visits, interfaith dinners, and trips to Turkey, among many Rumi Forum activities, is intercultural dialogue. What is doubly fascinating for me as one with distant ancestral ties to Turkey is that the Rumi Forum strikes a stimulating balance between implementing the universally applicable humanistic teachings of a modern Muslim thinker, Fethullah Gülen, and a pride in Turkish culture and Turkey's reemergence as a center of Islamic moderation amidst a booming economic and diplomatic revival. For those of us, friends of the Rumi Forum on the outside of the Turkish community, there is a double fascination with a coherent and modern Islamic vision and an amazing country with a deep history. The vision, I believe, is in the spirit of the Quranic injunction, and this is my paraphrasing. If God had wanted to make us alike, he would have. So, mankind, your duty is to go forth and know one another. In other words, skillfully dialogue as a kind of spiritual imperative. As to the history piece, like many here quite possibly, I've stared across Istanbul's Golden Horn at the Hill, the Sultan Ahmet Quarter, hosting the Hagia Sophia Cathedral, which later became a mosque and now is a museum, and the Topkapi Palace grounds. As a recovering history of religion major, contemplating this hill rising over the Bosphorus gives me the shivers. Steering across this busiest of modern waterways, I view and reflect on a single urban quarter, a neighborhood that was the center of the Euro-Asian world, the axis mundi, as we called it in school, for 1,000 years, give or take a few. And it may be emerging as such again. Maybe it's the legacy of Anatolia's vast multicultural empires, but one encounters at every turn with the Forum an appreciation for the prerequisites of dialogue, self-reflection, human empathy, and the opening of the heart and mind, please note my word order, that result. While many here probably view the largely favorable 60 Minutes piece on the Gulen-inspired harmony schools in America, fewer, I'm certain, know that similar institutions inspired by Imam Gulen's ideas, emphasizing scientific exploration and rationality as a path to knowledge of and a vehicle for giving back to the divine, my words here, my paraphrasing of my understanding of his teaching, are spread throughout far needier parts of the world in the hundreds. Let me share a personal story. I was introduced as a retired member of our senior foreign service, but actually I'm rehired. Last year, the department sent me to fill in as Counselor of Public Affairs at our embassy in Dushanbe, Tajikistan. Tajikistan is, unfortunately, the poorest of the so-called Central Asian stands. Life isn't easy there. Our American corner, a kind of computerized neighborhood reading room, akin in scale, if I can explain it, to a Christian Science reading room here on our shores, hosted many lectures and films to fill the relatively quiet cultural scene in the capital city. These events generally drew overflow crowds of about 50 to 100 high school students and university students also. I gave a couple of lectures there myself and attended several others. During the soda and cookie sessions that followed these talks, I made a point of talking with the students who had asked the brightest and most incisive questions during the talks. I can say, without exaggeration, that just about inevitably, the students who demonstrated that depth of questioning and a special capacity to reason critically turned out to be from the Dushanbe Gulen School. Closer to home, and to our purpose here tonight, are the Rumi Forum's contributions to our dialogue as an American community in this greater capital region, mid-Atlantic space. The Forum's dinners, family visits, and interfaith encounters in our Maryland and Virginia suburbs demonstrate a vigorous and successful integration of a modern Muslim population into our towns and neighborhoods. To me, this distinctly American story of successful integration provides a picture book foundation for all the Forum does to enhance dialogue among us and our communities. These annual awards are but another contribution to the community building that the Forum does and exemplify robust participation of the Rumi Forum in our public space. The act of singling out and thanking the stellar public figures whom we honor tonight has a particularly American and communitarian significance. To this year's honorees, your gracious acceptance and attendance here in turn honor the Forum's many dialogue initiatives and an emerging community of new Americans and their many friends in the quote, mainstream, whatever that means anymore in America. You honor and validate the Rumi Forum, and you allow the Forum to in turn validate and praise your achievements in the public square of our region and nation. Thank you, and peace be with you.